Thing from the top down to the ground. And also mention the truck's not leaning one way or the other. So the fairings, the fiberglass up on top, the fenders, the hood, all firmly attached, nothing loose or hanging. The marker lights, proper color, amber. Windshield is clear, no obstructions, firmly attached, good condition. Mirrors firmly attached, properly adjusted. Fender mirror, same thing, firmly attached. The grille, the bumper, the headlights are clear. The turn signals, four ways, are the proper color, amber. They're firmly attached and not cracked or broken, and they're operating. That's about it for the front down, except for underneath. You gotta say there's no leaks, no fluids leaking down, no puddles, stuff like that. But basically everything you can see from the top to the ground. Mention it. Fenders, the hood, the fairing up on top, the air dam, the marker lights, mirrors, grille, fender mirror, headlights, blinkers, turn signals, four ways, bumper, grille, and no leaks. That's it for the outside. It's like there's nothing there that you couldn't mention. Right, top to bottom. Let me go open it up. Driver's side. Five things on this side I need to mention. Okay? Just five. Hoses, belts, alternator, water pump, and frame. That's the five things. For the hoses, you got to say no bulges, no cuts, no holes, no leaks. The clamps are tight, firmly attached, good condition. For the alternator, you want to say it's firmly attached. All the bolts are in place, nothing loose or missing. The electric lines are secured. The belt is at proper tension. You don't have to do it, but you should say that it's the proper tension on the alternator belt, and the alternator is belt driven. You can't forget those two things. So that's two of the five. Hose, three of the five. Hose, belt, and alternator. Then down here is the water pump. Water pump is firmly attached, not leaking, gear driven, and all the bolts are in place. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth thing is the frame. You can see the frame here, so we'll get that out of the way and just say frame. Anywhere you can see it, you'll inspect it. No illegal welds, no missing bolts, nothing cracked or damaged, loose or hanging. So that's it for this side of the truck. Five things: hose, belt, alternator, water pump, and frame.
Yeah, remember to say it's belt driven.
And you got to say the alternator is belt driven and the water pump is gear driven. You got to say those two things. Then we can go around the other side. On this side we do a top down. You can see the windshield wipers right here, so it's a good idea to mention them. You might mention them again inside the truck, but at least here you can say they're firmly attached. Rubber's in good condition, they're working properly. And then work your way down here, across here, down here, across back that way to the wheel. So it's coolant reservoir, caps on tight, firmly attached, not leaking, and proper level. Windshield washer fluid, same thing. Caps on tight, firmly attached. The levels got a good amount of fluid in it, and it's not leaking. This is the steering shaft from the steering wheel. It doesn't have excessive play. When you talk about excessive play, if you're looking at the shaft here, it would be about 10 degrees of movement here. It doesn't have any. Or it could be 2 inches at the steering wheel of a 20-inch steering wheel. You could say either one or both, but basically 2 inches of movement at the steering wheel or 10 degrees at this shaft. You want to not forget the stuff that's back here, so I think I'll hold off on the rest of this and jump back there and say this is the compressor. This looks like a lawnmower engine back here. That's the compressor. It's gear driven. It's firmly attached, nothing loose, nothing cracked or broken. All the connections are tight, no air leaks. You're going to mention the dipstick to check the oil. For checking the oil, you would pull the dipstick out, wipe it off, put it back in, and read the level on the dipstick, and then put it back in. If you needed to add oil, you would add it right there. Then up here at the in front of the compressor is the power steering pump. This is gear driven also. Power steering pump, gear driven, firmly attached. All the bolts are in place, nothing cracked, damaged, loose, or missing. The hoses firmly attached, good condition. Clamps are tight and nothing leaking. And these power steering hoses come this way to the reservoir, and then this way to the steering gearbox, and then back up to the pump. So all these 3 hoses are part of the power steering unit. The reservoir, you want to say the same stuff as you said before. It's a clear. You can see the level is a proper level. The cap's on tight. It's firmly attached. Nothing loose or broken or damaged or leaking. And the hoses, clamps are tight. Nothing leaking. These hoses lead to the power steering gearbox. This is the gearbox right here. Firmly attached. Nothing leaking out of it. Nothing cracked or damaged or loose or missing. And also mention this. I mentioned the shaft before and the power steering gearbox, but also mentioned this is a U-joint. It's in good condition, doesn't show any signs of wear. Everything's tight, no missing bolts. That should be good for that. And for the gearbox itself, you want to point out the bolts are all there, present, nothing missing, nothing loose, nothing cracked or broken. Then you want to talk about the linkages. The linkages go from the power steering box to the wheel. So these bars here, this is a pitman arm, that's a drag link, that's a steering arm. You don't have to say all that, but it's all basically part of the steering linkage. And with the steering linkage, you want to say all the bolts are in place. It's got a castle nut there and a castle nut there with the cotter pin in it. Everything's tight, nothing loose, cracked, damaged, broken. There's a bushing at each end. There's a bushing here and a bushing there. Properly greased, nothing loose or cracked or torn or leaking. Okay, then you got to mention the spring and the suspension. With the spring, this is the leaf spring. The leaf springs are not out of position. They're not cracked or broken. They're held on with 2 U-bolts in good condition. All the bolts are tight, nothing loose or hanging. This is the shock absorber, firmly attached, no missing bolts, and this could be leaking if it were getting old. So you want to say no leaks on the shock absorber. Then back to the spring, you want to say that the there's no out of position leaf. Sometimes the leaf springs can crack and they can slide out of position. So you want to mention that the leaf springs are in a good position, firmly attached, nothing cracked or broken. And the leaf spring has a hanger at the front and a hanger at the back. So you want to mention this triangle shaped piece of metal back here is bolted to the frame and it's hanging the spring. This front end of the spring and the back end of the spring back there. So you got a hanger at each end. All the bolts are in place. It's not cracked or damaged or broken, and nothing missing, damaged or out of place. So that's it for the springs, shock absorber, hangers, U-bolts, and the steering linkage. The next thing you want to do is the brakes, and some people use the acronym CHAD, C-H-A-D, CHAD the brakes. C means chamber. This is the air chamber. It's firmly attached, all the bolts are in place. It's not leaking. The hoses going to okay, so C is for chamber, H is for hoses. So you say the hoses are firmly attached, are in good condition, not leaking, and so that's C, H. A stands for adjuster. This is the slack adjuster here. The slack adjuster is firmly attached. It's not damaged, nothing missing, and if you needed to check the slack adjuster, you would release the brakes and push or pull against this rod here, and it should have no more than 1 inch of play moving back and forth. But you have to say, you can't check it now because the brakes are on, it's tight. So to check it, you would release the brakes, push and pull, and no more than 1 inch of play. So all these bolts are in place, nothing missing, nothing cracked or damaged, and that's C, H, A, and then D for drum. The wheel drum is back here, cast iron wheel drum, brakes drum, has the brake shoe inside it. The brake shoe has more than a quarter of an inch of material, brake material on the shoes. Good condition, nothing cracked or missing. And the brake drum is not cracked or damaged or broken. So then you got to do the wheel and tire. With the wheel, you want to mention the inner wheel, good condition, nothing welded or dented or broken. The tire on the inside sidewall, there's no cuts, abrasions, bulges, or leaks. Across the top of the tread, it's got even wear. It's not unevenly worn. The tread depth is at least 430 seconds. The other wheels will all be at least 230 seconds. But you got to say 430 seconds for these. Then come down around the outer side wall, same thing, good condition. No abrasions, cuts, bulges, and nothing cut or leaking. And the outer wheel, it can't be welded, so it would be you want to look for illegal welds or bent or damaged. Then you got to mention the lug nuts. These are covers of the lug nuts, but you got to check that all the lug nuts are in place. They're tight. You would check them with a lug wrench, and there's no looseness or wear on the lug nut holes. Inside here, there is a rubber cap to check the oil level for the wheel bearing. So you would say that in here is a wheel bearing seal, and it's in good condition, it's got proper oil level, and you would pop that rubber cap off there and look at it to see that it had the right level. You can't see it with the hubcap on, but you just have to talk about it. Again, all the lug nuts present, tight. Check them with a lug wrench, and no excessive wear on the holes or rust trails would indicate wear. You also have to mention the air valve. Where is it? There it is there. Down there you got the air valve. You would check the air pressure at the air valve with an air gauge. You got to say all that. And the cap is on the air valve. So that covers the wheel and everything up here. The next thing you want to talk about is the door and fuel tank area. With the door, you want to say the mirrors are firmly attached, clear, no obstructions on them, they're properly adjusted. The door handle is working. It opens and closes. The seal around the door is in good condition, nothing loose or hanging, and the door hinge is in good condition. I think they want you to lift up on the door a little bit to prove that the hinge is not loose. And if the door opens and closes properly, as long as you got the door open, you can see the fire extinguisher. It's really part of the inside safety equipment, but you're looking at it right here, so you might as well mention it and say that it's properly charged, it's secured, and it's the proper rating, 10 BC. So that's that for the door area. I'll get to that. Down here is the fuel tank area. You want to mention the fuel tank is not leaking. It's firmly attached. The straps are secured to the frame. No missing bolts, no damage, nothing loose or hanging. And the cap and gasket is on there and tight. The steps are firmly attached to get in and out. They're clear. There's no obstructions, dirt, snow, mud, debris. And they're firmly attached to the mounting. In here you got 3 safety triangles. You got to mention that. Reflective triangles. You should say that the side of the truck there's nothing loose or hanging. All the bolts and rivets are in place. This light you have to talk about. It's a blinker light, 4-way flasher, and marker light. And it's a proper color, amber, and firmly attached, and not cracked or broken. So,
We'll talk about that sticker, Carl.
you don't have to mention it.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt to say it's got a valid sticker, but that's not part of it. The back of the truck, depending on the truck, sometimes the muffler is up or down or somewhere else, but on this one, the muffler you got to talk about, firmly attached. All the bolts and mounting brackets are in place. The clamps are tight. There's no leaks. There's no holes or damage in the exhaust system, the exhaust pipe, or the muffler. You want to mention the frame again, because you see a lot of it right here. You should mention this is a catwalk, firmly attached, good condition, clear, and securely attached. Same thing with the steps, if there are steps on the truck. Firmly attached, all the bolts are in place, all the hardware is there, and no obstructions. You got to mention the drive shaft. On this truck you can see it right down in here. There's the front of the drive shaft, and then it goes back there. There's a U-joint at the front and back of the drive shaft. Drive shaft is in good condition, not bent, broken, or damaged. The U-joints, all the bolts are in place and properly greased. Let's see. Now for Class A, you would be hooked up to the trailer, and you would have these airlines. You would have to talk about the airlines. They're kind of plastic or rubber. So you would say they're not crowder damaged, leaking. There's no abrasions or kinks or crimps in the airlines. The glad hands are in good condition. The gaskets are in good condition. They're firmly attached to the trailer. The electric line, same thing, is not damaged, firmly attached. For Class B, these will be not really visible. They'll be permanently going to the wheels. So you don't have to talk about glad hands and airlines. You have to mention this is a mud flap or a quarter fender or a mud guard. A couple of different names, but basically it's a mud guard, mud flap. Firmly attached, good condition, not damaged. Let's see. The back wheels, you got to talk about the tandem wheels are firmly bolted together. There's no gap or space between where they're bolted together. There's no debris, and the tires are not rubbing against each other. And the tread depth is different than the front. The tread depth is 2/32. Let's see. When you get back here, you can say, I'm going to check all the other wheels the same way I inspected the front ones, with the exception of the tread depth and the space between the dual wheels. The shock absorber spring. This one has an airbag back here. We didn't have an airbag on the front, so you got to mention the airbag. The airbag is firmly attached, top and bottom. The rubber is in good condition. It's not leaking. There's no cuts or holes or anything leaking. So at this point, you can say you're going to check all the wheels, springs, brakes, shock absorbers, spring hangers, airbags, the same way you did the front ones. So, and then as you're going around, you see another, you can just say the same thing, checking the wheels, suspension, shocks, same way they did in the front. Let's see. This is a torsion bar right here. They want you to mention the torsion bar. Now for Class A, you got to mention this airline. This airline goes to the sliding fifth wheel release. Good condition, firmly attached, not leaking, nothing loose or damaged. For Class A, you got to mention this. The sliding rail is firmly attached to the frame. This is where the fifth wheel slides forwards or backwards. All these bolts are in place. It's straight. It's not cracked or damaged. Nothing missing. This is a locking pin to lock the fifth wheel into position. There's one on the other side there, and this is the air system that releases that pin if you were going to slide the fifth wheel forward or backwards. So you got to mention the locking pin is in place. Class B guys, you don't have to mention the fifth wheel stuff. The fifth wheel mount is firmly attached to the frame. The pivot pins are in place. Nothing loose or damaged or missing. The upper fifth wheel is in good condition. It's not cracked or damaged. It's properly greased. And the upper fifth wheel should be firmly touching the apron of the trailer. This is the release handle. You got to mention that the release handle is secured in the proper position. Okay. Both Class A and Class B have to come back here and talk about the lights. The red lights are brake lights, turn indicators, four-way flashers, and running lights. The white light is a backup light. The mud flaps are in position. They're not damaged. They're firmly attached. Good condition. Class A people have to actually get under here and look up into the fifth wheel and say that the fifth wheel is firmly locked. Locking jaws are securing the kingpin. The kingpin is straight, in good condition, and this is the apron of the trailer, firmly attached, not cracked or damaged. That's the kingpin, properly greased, no gap between the upper fifth wheel and the apron. Alright, I think that's pretty much that. And then there's the trailer. Trailer, you want to mention up at the top the marker light, proper color amber, firmly attached. The glad hands are attached. The front of the trailer has no nothing loose or hanging. All the rivets are in place. That's a refrigerating unit. You should mention. You don't have to say much about it. I'm using my voice here. Excuse me. So the refrigerator unit is firmly attached. All the rivets are in place. The trailer, nothing, no holes or anything protruding out of the cargo compartment. All of the rivets are in place. This is DOT tape. It's firmly attached, in good condition. It's reflective tape. That's required by law. The supports, the floor supports for the trailer under here are all in good condition, firmly attached, nothing loose or hanging. Then you got to mention the landing gear, firmly attached, good condition. All the components are not cracked or broken or damaged. The handle is secured. The legs and feet are in good condition, properly positioned. It would, for your inspection test, the trailer would be hooked up and the legs would be up. So would you just say that they're up in the right position and that everything's firmly attached, good condition. You got to mention this tank. It's an auxiliary fuel tank. Just mention that it's securely attached, nothing damaged or leaking. The cap's in place, and it's got a proper amount of fuel in it. The landing gear handle is secured. Going down the side of the truck, no holes, no bulges, all the rivets are in place. You got to mention this is a marker light, firmly attached, not cracked or broken, amber in color. And then this is the blinker light. Turn signal is firmly attached, good condition, not cracked or broken, and working properly, proper color amber. Under there's the airlines going to the back tandem wheels. The airlines are properly suspended above the ground. They're in good condition, nothing's leaking. This is a sliding rail for the sliding tandem wheels. It's firmly attached, good condition. And the locking, this is a locking pin here, and this is a release handle. This pin has to be in place, holding the sliding tandem from moving. So you mentioned the handle, secured, the locking pin in place, and the sliding rail, good condition, firmly attached, nothing loose or cracked or damaged or broken. Wheels and tires and suspension, you're going to inspect the same way you did all the others. Mud flap, good condition, firmly attached, nothing broken or hanging. This light you have to mention, red light to the rear, amber lights elsewhere, firmly attached, good condition, proper color red. The back doors, you want to mention The doors are operating properly. They lock, they open and close. The hinges are good. The marker lights up at the top are proper color, red to the rear, firmly attached, good condition. These lights you got to talk about. These are stop light, blinker light, four-way flashers, and markers. These ones are running lights. So the outer ones are the brake lights and the marker lights. The inner ones are running lights. The door locks and hinges work in good condition, nothing loose, broken, or hanging. This is a DOT crash bar. It's firmly attached, good condition. It's got proper DOT reflective tape on it, and that's about that. So when you get to this point here, he's going to say, okay, we'll move on and do the inside inspection of the truck. So that covers the outside.